keep mental score.
No, we're going to keep score.
All right, well, good luck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, good luck.
Are you ready, honey?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
What if the person you loved faked everything? Not just a pregnancy, not just a heartbreak, but cancer, a brain tumor, even a miscarriage, and with fake blood on the floor. This isn't the plot of a movie. This is what Cyrus, yes, Miley's brother, says happened with Brenda's song. The same Brenda song we all watched growing up as London Tipton on The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. The same Brenda who's now living quietly with Home Alone star Macaulay Culkin and raising a family. But rewind a decade, and things weren't so quiet. There were rumors, hospital photos, angry Instagram rants, and accusations that sound too insane to be true, or too specific to be made up. So, what really happened between Cyrus and Brenda's song? Why is he still bringing it up over 10 years later? And who was telling the truth, if anyone? Let's take it from the top, because once this story starts, it doesn't stop. Brenda's song had the kind of fame most child actors only dream of. As London Tipton on The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, she wasn't just a Disney Channel regular, she was the moment. Glammed up, hilarious, and completely unforgettable, she represented every 90s and early 2000s kids' golden age of TV. You couldn't flip through channels without catching that iconic, high-pitched laugh. Cyrus, on the other hand, was something else entirely. Tattooed from neck to knuckles, wearing eyeliner and angst-like armor, he was the moody lead guitarist of Metro Station, a band whose sound was less Disney and more dark corner of MySpace. His biggest hit? A sweaty electropop anthem called Shake It that tore through teenage playlists in the late 2000s. So when these two worlds collided in 2010, the sweet, polished face of Disney and the grungy, brooding rock star, fans were floored. Nobody saw it coming. Not Hollywood, not Disney diehards, not even their friends. But by late 2011, Trace and Brenda weren't just dating anymore. They were engaged. Trace posted about it publicly, calling Brenda the one, and declaring he'd finally found someone who inspired him. Brenda, more cryptic as always, tweeted a vague but telling message. "My stomach is full of excitement. Big plans. You'll see soon." Fans ate it up, but there was more bubbling beneath the surface. Paparazzi had recently caught Brenda sobbing outside a hospital. Tabloids were suddenly buzzing with headlines. Brenda, song pregnant. A baby Cyrus on the way. It wasn't just speculation. Even Trace's mom reportedly got involved, trying to get clarity about the situation. But neither Brenda nor Trace ever came out and said exactly what was going on. The engagement was real. That much was clear. But the rest? Pregnancy, hospital visits, cryptic tweets. It all became a swirling mess of mystery, hype, and confusion. To fans, it seemed like just another dramatic celebrity relationship. But behind the scenes, something much more complicated was brewing. A tangled mix of love, obsession, and what some would later call manipulation. Because soon, one of them would accuse the other of faking it all. At first, it all looked like a typical whirlwind celebrity romance. The kind that gets messy in the tabloids but fades with time. Except, this one didn't fade. In August 2011, rumors hit a boiling point. Entertainment blogs claimed Brenda's song was pregnant. Celebas even reported that the couple was expecting a fetal collaboration. It wasn't just gossip. Fans genuinely believed a Disney baby was on the way. And for a moment, it almost felt real. Brenda and Trace were photographed arm in arm at Hollywood events, glowing in that young and in love way. Family tweets from Miley Cyrus and others congratulated the couple. Even Brenda's own tweet, "My stomach is full of excitement," seemed to confirm what everyone already suspected. But then, silence. No baby bump updates, no follow-up statements, and then the photos surfaced. Brenda leaving a hospital visibly distraught, red-eyed, trying to avoid the flashing cameras. Whatever had just happened, it wasn't joy. It looked like heartbreak. Speculation shifted. Was she having complications? Had she lost the baby? Soon, the headlines stopped. No announcements, no confirmations, just a void. Brenda's mother reportedly told Star magazine that her daughter wasn't actually pregnant, a statement that only deepened the confusion. Was it a misunderstanding, a cover-up, a rumor gone wrong? Brenda said nothing. Trace said nothing. And for a while, the world moved on. But behind the scenes, trust was quietly shattering. Because what Trace would later claim about that pregnancy was something no one could have predicted. Years went by, the engagement ended, Brenda moved on, and for a while, it seemed like the chaos had finally burned out. Until Cyrus opened his mouth and lit the match all over again. In a series of explosive Instagram comments and posts, Trace dropped accusations that sounded too outrageous to be real, and yet way too specific to ignore. According to him, Brenda hadn't just pretended to be pregnant. She had gone further, much further. Trace claimed Brenda had lied about being pregnant multiple times, not once, but several. He said she had faked a miscarriage using store-bought blood, smearing it across a bathroom floor to convince him she'd lost a child. In a panic, Trace said he and his mother rushed her to an OB/GYN, only to realize the blood wasn't real and there had never been a pregnancy. But it didn't stop there. Trace accused Brenda of lying about having breast cancer, a brain tumor, and even undergoing surgery to remove it. He claimed she showed up at his house one day with her head bandaged, pretending she had just gotten out of surgery from the best surgeon in Chicago. Except when Trace pulled off the bandage, there was nothing. No scar, no stitches, no evidence of anything. He said that was the moment it all clicked. That every painful story, every tearful confession had been a lie. A lie she told not just to him, but to his entire family. And when his mother finally confronted Brenda, according to Trace, she couldn't face them again. She was, in his words, humiliated to ever show her face around my family. Now let's be clear, none of these claims have ever been legally proven. But Trace didn't care about legal. He went public, loud, unfiltered, and very, very angry. In his words, the truth is, the only reason Brenda and I aren't together is because she has been a pathological liar for years and lied to me about horrible things. Even if it was true, why go public now? Why bring all this up again a decade later? Some say he was finally speaking his truth. Others say it was a bitter, one-sided meltdown. But no matter what side you were on, people were watching, commenting, taking sides, and as the internet exploded with reactions, Brenda finally broke her silence. For years, Brenda's songs stayed silent. No interviews, no rebuttals, no legal action, just silence, which, depending on who you ask, was either strength or strategy. But eventually, she cracked. In a quiet Instagram post, almost buried in her feed, Brenda finally addressed the rumors. She didn't name names. She didn't throw shade. She just wrote, "A few years ago, there were rumors that I was pregnant and had a miscarriage. I just want to say those rumors were not true. They were lies and fabrications. I apologize for not clearing this up sooner and for the damage these lies have caused." She even tagged Trace. And for a brief second, fans thought maybe the storm was over. Maybe she was rising above it all, taking the high road. But Trace, he was not done. He responded instantly, publicly, and he wasn't holding back. He wrote directly under her post in all caps, "Yes, they were lies that you made up. And you told me, my entire family, and all of our friends." And just like that, the floodgates reopened. Trace began reposting old claims, screenshots, photos, more cryptic messages about deception and betrayal. He insisted he had never cheated. He said the only reason the relationship ended was because of her lies. Lies, he claimed, that left his heart broken beyond repair. To some, it looked like a man fighting to reclaim his truth. To others, a desperate attempt to rewrite history. What made things even more complicated was how calmly Brenda handled it. She didn't fire back, didn't start a back and forth. She simply moved on. But that silence, that calm, it made people talk even more. Because now the question wasn't just who is telling the truth. It became, why is Trey still so obsessed? And if you thought that was the end of their twisted love story, think again. After everything, the rumors, the accusations, the social media chaos, you'd think it was over. But it wasn't. Not even close. Because despite the public fallout, despite Trace calling her a pathological liar, and Brenda publicly denying his claims, they got back together. Yes, again. In early 2013, Trace posted a photo of the two of them on Instagram. Brenda, who had stayed mostly silent during the storm, tweeted something that had people raising their eyebrows. Don't give up on someone you can't go a full day without thinking about. Was this love? Was it guilt? Was it something neither of them could let go? No one really knew. But the signs were there. Paparazzi spotted them together again, laughing, holding hands, looking like nothing had ever happened. And on Brenda's finger, that same engagement ring, fans were confused. Critics rolled their eyes, and insiders whispered that this wasn't a love story. It was an addiction to each other, to the chaos, to whatever this was. But like before, it didn't last. Because by 2014, things had crashed hard. Brenda suddenly wiped all traces of Trace from her Instagram. Gone, deleted, vanished. People noticed. And once again, speculation exploded. Were they done for good? Was this breakup number 2 or number 3? No one could even keep count anymore. Trace tried to keep the story alive. He posted about Brenda, tagged her in old photos, even dropped vague captions that hinted at heartbreak or obsession. It was a cycle. Get together, break up, get together again. And each time it ended in more pain than the last. Somewhere along the way, love had turned into something darker. Not passion, not nostalgia, but fixation. And even after Brenda was long gone, Trace still wasn't finished. By this point, Brenda had moved on. She was building a quiet, low-profile life with Home Alone star Macaulay Culkin. No scandals, no cryptic tweets, just peace. But Trace? He wasn't done telling the story. On Valentine's Day, of all days, in 2018, he released a song. Its title, Brenda. And from the first note, it was clear. This wasn't just another breakup track. It was a letter, a confession, maybe even a cry for help. Brenda, I should have never left the West Coast. I lost you on the metro. Smoke and mirrors got me losing my mind. The lyrics dripped with regret, but not the kind that fades. This was sharp, personal, and painfully specific. He sang about her photographs still haunting him, about being sedated since she left, about missing her every night, even though they hadn't been together in years. And while Trace claimed the song was a final goodbye, it didn't feel like closure. Not really, because even in his own words, he left the door cracked open. Brenda, you're so amazing. I hope it's not really goodbye. It was haunting, bittersweet, and to many unsettling, especially since Trace wasn't single when the song dropped. He was in another relationship with a model named Taylor Lauren Sanders. And yet, here he was, pouring his soul into a song about his ex-fiancé. People started to question, was this a tribute or obsession? Had Trace ever truly let go? Or was he still chasing a version of Brenda that never even existed? Because while she was changing diapers and building a family, Trace was still writing songs, still making posts, still reliving a relationship that ended over a decade ago. And it wasn't the last time he'd bring her up. Not by a long shot, because in 2023, Trace unleashed something even more unfiltered and way more personal. Just when everyone thought the past was finally buried, Cyrus dug it all up. In 2023, over a decade since the engagement ended, Trace returned to Instagram, but not with a love song. This time, it was a full-blown rant. No filters, no lyrics, just raw, furious typing. He claimed, again, that multiple women from his past, including ones from over 10 years ago, were still trying to get him back. In his words, some of them are in new relationships and have had to settle for what I know they find less desirable. They've settled for what they can get. And while he never named Brenda directly, everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. The timing, the tone, the way it matched every other post he'd made about her for years. Then came the real kicker. I genuinely feel bad for any girl I've been with that has to live with the regret of losing me. Pause. Let that sink in. This wasn't just confidence, it was superiority complex on steroids. And the internet noticed. One commenter fired back, "This is exactly why Brenda left you." To which Trace replied without hesitation, "Yes, Brenda left because she stole thousands of dollars from me, faked multiple pregnancies, and lied about being terminally ill." So it came full circle. Again, the same accusations, the same resentment, still burning, still public, and still completely unresolved. But this time, people weren't cheering him on. The responses were brutal, truly pathetic, reinforcing exactly why she left. Get help, man! It became painfully clear Trace wasn't just venting, he was spiraling. He even began targeting his own family, ranting about his adoptive father, Billy Ray Cyrus, calling him washed up, fame-hungry, and the lamest man to walk the earth. He said he was past the point of even caring if I ever speak to him again. And yet, he still uses the Cyrus name, still cashes in on the same fame he claims to resent. Fans didn't know whether to be outraged or concerned. Was this a breakdown? A PR stunt? Or just who Trace had always been underneath the eyeliner and guitars? Because while Brenda stayed silent and focused on family, career, and staying out of headlines, Trace kept talking and talking and talking, and every word made it harder to separate heartbreak from obsession. By now you've heard the claims, the lies, the songs, the silence, and the chaos. What started as a quirky celebrity romance quickly spiraled into something deeper and darker. Trace Cyrus says he was manipulated, lied to, and emotionally wrecked by someone he thought he'd spend his life with. Brenda's song, on the other hand, simply walked away, quietly, firmly, and permanently. No lawsuits, no counters, no name-dropping interviews, just distance. And maybe that silence says more than any Instagram caption ever could. But here's the question that won't go away. Was Trace telling the truth? Or rewriting the past to stay relevant? Was Brenda really the manipulative villain he describes? Or just a former Disney star caught in the orbit of a man who couldn't let go? There are no confirmed timelines, no receipts, just two versions of a story. One shouted into the internet, and one kept locked behind closed lips. And maybe that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. Not knowing, not being sure. Because the most viral stories are the ones that leave room for doubt. One thing's for sure, this wasn't your typical celebrity breakup. It was a public unraveling, a cautionary tale, and maybe, just maybe, a glimpse into what fame really does when the cameras stop rolling. So now we leave you with the question, was this a broken love story? Or the longest-running performance of Trace Cyrus's life? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you thought that was messy, just wait until you see who Trace went after next. Love, lies, regret. Whatever this was between Trace Cyrus and Brenda's song, it wasn't just a breakup. It was a decade-long echo. A relationship that ended, but never really ended. Trace didn't just move on, he turned their story into fuel for his music, his rants, and his public identity. Brenda, meanwhile, chose silence. She built a new life, started a family, and left the chaos behind. But that silence, it only made Trace's voice louder. And in the end, we're left with two very different versions of reality. One screamed, one whispered. So who do you believe? The man who swears he was broken by lies? or the woman who refused to play along? Maybe we'll never know the full truth. Or maybe, deep down, we already do. Either way, this wasn't just about a failed engagement. It was about ego, pain, and the way some people just can't let go, no matter how loud the world tells them to move on. If you found this story as wild as we did, drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget, there's always more where this came from.